there's been times in my business and in our lives, and I hit one about 5 or 6 years ago that, man, I got people coming to me, man, y'all are killing it. Everything's doing great. Y'all are, this. And from the outside looking in, it's awesome. And I knew what to say. I knew how to smile. I knew what face to put on. But dude, inside, I'm miserable. I'm just a dark shell of a man that appears to have it all together. And the more I talk to men, there's more and more guys, maybe not that exact thing, but very similar to that. And I'm like, man, I get it. I've been there.
This is the Untamed Podcast, where only the few dare to go. We're building a community of adventurous high achievers who refuse to trade our dreams for comfortable mediocrity so that we can unleash our untamed potential. Could you be one of the untamed few? Now, your Untamed hosts, Mark Lucas and Joel Fritz.
Guys, I'm so excited right now. I've got one of my actual good friends here in Huntsville, Alabama, Chris Gothart.
Yep. Thanks for letting me be here.
Come on, man. I'm so
awesome,
glad you're
man.
here.
I'm honored to be here. This is awesome.
Well, we're going to have some fun. So Chris has got great stories. Chris is a serial. Actually, you and your wife, Stephanie, between the two of them, they're the definition of serial entrepreneurs. Like, they cannot put stuff down. They only pick stuff up and they just start anything that they can. So I'm just going to rattle off a little bit about what this guy's doing, and then he can fill in the details, right?
Okay.
Because I don't have you here just because of business. I have you here because of the way that you choose to live life.
Yeah.
And in your business, outside of life, as a dad, as a husband, as a follower of Jesus Christ, you're a guy that I think can speak to men and the places that they're in, whether they're in a place of difficulty, whether they're wanting to understand how to be a better husband, father, business owner. They're thinking about starting things. You've just been through it all. So hopefully we get to cover a lot of the good stuff.
I can give you a lot of what not to do.
Yeah. Well, listen, all right, here's what this guy has done. Some time ago, he started a construction business, right? And he's doing house flips, renovations, things like that. And then he's building homes, and he's got Gothart Homes. Yep. But that's not enough. So they choose to start a rental company where they're managing rentals for investors with portfolios. They had one of our rentals for quite a while. We just sold that this last year.
Yeah.
So that they're doing that. His wife, Stephanie, is a realtor. So you guys are just in the real estate game. But recently, even, this is going to be part of the fun stories or the struggles that wasn't enough for these guys. So they're like, hey, we're going to become restaurateurs as well. And they're going to start a restaurant. So which they've recently done. So all this is going on. But why don't you can you kind of like take us back to the beginning? The Stephanie and the Chris that we knew right at the beginning, you guys getting married as you're thinking about business and stuff like that. Just tell us what life was like before you embarked on this crazy journey.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing's been a journey. It's been, we grew up separate. We grew up, I tell people I never did without, but we didn't have any excess. You know what I mean? Stephanie, kind of other side, family very blessed. So we've known each other since we were kids, literally grew up together off and on, and just life's paths brought us back together, and knew right out of the gate, the first date, official date I went on with her. Matter of fact, on the way home, I said, I'm going to marry you one day, and she looked at me, I'm crazy.
Love this guy.
Come to find out now, she felt the same way, but she wasn't going to let me know then.
I always love it when I hear that story, because I was not the guy who was like, I'm going to go up to a girl and be like, you're the one,
listen,
right?
I'll be honest with you, I wasn't that guy either, but
it's incredible.
I knew.
You knew.
I knew right then. I said, listen, this is the one, At least I hoped it was, because I didn't have a plan B, So, yeah, man, and just pursued her and got married. She was, at Lee with Kristen, and that's where I met your wife. And we were up there, and just being honest with you, I come from a background of hard work. So does she. Her parents are entrepreneurs too. My parents were not, but just extremely hard workers, and just knew right out of the gate I wanted to make something special for my life, and if I'm being transparent, it really wasn't from a godly background back then. It was just from a wanting to be successful. I wanted the American dream, one of my biggest goals, and it's very self-centered now, but looking back, I wanted to be a millionaire. That's what, you know what I'm saying? So, but we just were both hard workers and really didn't know how that was going to look. And early 20s, kind of got encouraged by a guy I look up to a lot to start my own business. And I did. And man, the Lord just began to open doors and opportunities and a lot of hard work. And the construction business started with we were doing like closet shelving for a while and windows and doors and things like that. And it just morphed and wanted to do, more and more and more. So just got a lot of opportunities and it grew. And the property management is kind of not a funny story, but it's the year Carly was born, my oldest daughter, Carly, she's 18. And I tried to get my mother-in-law into real estate for a long time. And the year she was born, she finally decided to get into it. And that's where the property management came from is, we were like, hey, listen, we're either going to pay real estate agents realtor fees. You go get your license and we can, keep that in-house, smart move. And, little did we know back then though, honestly, it was just a big plan of the Lord. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those, you literally daily are walking by faith and taking opportunities and taking next steps. And really it just kind of morphed into what it is today. We were at the courthouse learning how to buy foreclosure properties, not really knowing what we were doing, but figuring it out. You make some really good decisions and you make some bad ones. You know that,
Yes, you did. Yes, I do know
we've had those conversations before. And, really looking back on it, it was really, even when I didn't know it, and even when it's hard to say, even when I wasn't really putting him first, it was still God's hand over every single decision, every no, every failed business attempt, every failed flip, every bad job. It was teaching us things. Every blessing, it was teaching us things. And the older you get and the more you do it, you really look back on that. And the closer you get with the Lord and you realize, man, you really had your hand over me through all that. And I had no idea. I wasn't even really in tune with much of what you were doing back then. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Hey, that's good.
It's just a glimpse, a very brief snapshot.
Well, here's what I want. In the midst of that, there's a story. There's a story about you and Stephanie or something with your kids or something where life looked like it was just going to unravel, fall apart, or that whole thing that you just talked about. I'm sucked into this. And it's the last places you want to be because it feels like the whole carpet is getting pulled out from under you.
I'll be honest with you, Joel. When you ask me that, it really, you think of a couple key times that straight up as a man, I look back at those times and there were, times where I'll never forget. I'll give you one example. And I hadn't thought about this in a while, but we were building our second house. Stephanie was pregnant with Carly. Business was growing. I'm in the middle of trying to grow a business and learn how to run a construction business. I'm a first generation. My dad didn't have one. My granddad had a construction business years ago, but it was a very old school style. They didn't have cell phones. You go to the job, work at the job all day and then go home. You know what I mean? So we were doing all that. You're in the rat race of life. Again, you're driven by success. You want to be the biggest, baddest, best, and again, I don't recommend that because mine was a lot of self-centeredness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Hate to say that now, but looking back now, that's really what it was. And want to do things for my family, but at the end of the day, it was, hey, I did this, and man, I don't remember what all was happening, but we were building that house and it's in a cul-de-sac and there's woods around it. I don't think y'all ever been there, but it's just kind of one of those points you get to and you're just like, God, I can't take no more. You look back and you're like, man, I'm looking back at it now. I'm like, well, you brought all that on yourself. And I'll never forget, I went to the window and it was, I don't know, we were in drywall painting, something like that. I was there by myself, one of those nights you're working and you're,
right.
And I remember sitting there and I'm just like, Lord, we do this as men all the time. We think we got it. Till we know we don't have it. And then we're like, okay, Lord, I need your help. I've created all this. I can't do it no more. Help me now, God. You know what I mean? Which really, if we would do that every day, we don't get to that point. So, but I remember looking out the window, and I remember, it's a funny story in it, but I remember I'm just like, Lord, listen, I can't do this no more. You know, you didn't, you know, back then, you really don't know nobody to talk to. You know what I'm saying? You don't really have anybody. You're just internalized. And I look out, and this hummingbird comes out of nowhere, okay? And comes and flies and sits right in front of the window and just looks at me. And I mean, we're face to face. And it sounds weird, whatever, but it was, I'll never forget that, because I realized at that moment, he's got his eyes on me. Even though I might be doing some stuff on my own I shouldn't be doing, or out of context or out of order, he's got me. Yeah. That was a very key moment for me. And then not long after that, Carly was born. And, you know, you have a hard time as a man, at least I did, truly understanding God's love. You hear about it, you hear stories, you hear all that, but I'll never forget one night I was in there. She's very young, so it probably wasn't a couple months after this event. And I'm sitting in there, and she's crying, and I finally get her down, and I'm just sitting there, and I have this brand new baby, and I'm loving this baby more than I've ever loved anything in my life. And the Holy Spirit spoke to me right then. And God told me, listen, that love that you feel right there, I love you more than that. Mm-hmm. And that was a very key point too, in even taking that into business. I'm like, man, he loves me that much that he wants to be part of everything I'm doing. Not just church, not just my quiet time with him, but everything I'm doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. It wasn't a funny story, but a very serious, you know, kind of turning point. But man, there's so many stories going through there that I just, you know, a lot of them you look back and you remember, I think you remember more of the difficult things you went through.
Yeah, no doubt.
Than some of the funny stuff. Mm-hmm. Because you have key difficult moments that mark you. Yes. And you look back on that. And I've really, probably the last 3-4 years, I've really, I would say truly 100% turned my life over to the Lord. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like I've been a Christian for a long time. I've checked that box, probably make it to heaven. You know what I mean? I'm there, but I'm not really living for the Lord, you know? So you look back at a lot of those difficult times and turning points, and you look back at jobs you didn't get or opportunities you didn't get. And man, when you look back, you're like, Lord, you kept me from a atom bomb right there. Or I have this grand vision of where the company's supposed to go, and it just is failing every turn going that way. Well, then 2 years later, you look up and you're like, well, my goodness, if he had given me that then, this over here that's so much better, I would have never even got to experience this. Yeah. Or these people that are in my life now, I've got some guys in my life now with construction that might not have ever been in my life, and maybe I might not have ever been able to help or even been around. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's really, for me now, and again, we still mess things up every day. We're men and we still go down the wrong roads. But it's more of, God, is this really you? Or is this just me being driven, wanting to do something else? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, and even with Stephanie, you know, the same way. She's, I'm very blessed to have a wife that she lets me know when I'm wrong. You know what I mean? And what is it? What is it? A Proverbs 31 woman? Is that it?
That's right.
Yeah, I think I'm not. I'm kidding. I remind her of that a lot more. I'm like, man, I'm thankful to have one of those. So, but
well, I want to know. I would love to have you talk a little bit about your marriage during these times. Yeah, because you have sought not just to be successful at business, but also successful at your relationship. With your kids, primarily with your wife, you know, that's where it starts. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, you guys are I think uniquely that you're both kind of entrepreneurs. Yeah. You guys both have that. It's not just her and it's not you. Yeah. You kind of serve different roles or have different, viewpoints on how to be business owners. But what's that like in marriage?
Man, it's tough. There's times where listen, it is the best thing in the world. And then it's terrible sometimes when you let it be. And we're, I'm 47. Stephanie's, She turns 46 this weekend. I still think we're figuring each other out now.
Happy birthday, Stephanie.
Yeah, happy birthday, babe. We're still figuring each other out now. We've been married 23 years. And, but if I could go back, you'd always say that, man, if I could go back 20 years. I'm a very driven person. I have extremely high expectations of myself. That bleeds into people around me, which I have to learn that I can't control people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I had a hard time, still deal with that on a daily basis to make sure I'm controlling it. When I come home at night, I expect everybody in my house to be driven as well. Mm-hmm. And if I'm still in work mode, hey guys, it's still time to work. I don't know why y'all are sitting around. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, sir. I know what you mean.
I was, that.
I've been guilty of that myself.
You have 3 girls at home. I've only got 1 and 2 boys. I could not imagine walking in the house. Matter of fact, I need to be asking you some questions here. But no, all kidding aside, it really, Joel, to be honest with you, man, it's been a process. It is difficult. People that we kid around about this earlier, but social media, we can put stuff out there on social media and make everything look perfect. And from the outside, there was a time, I'll be transparent with you, there was a time in our life, Jackson was being born. So this was about 11 years ago. Man, me and Stephanie were going through hell because she was dealing with a lot of postpartum stuff, which I didn't understand. As a man, I'm like, well, I don't understand this. She's going through her own inner turmoil. I don't know how to manage it. So I'm finding, I'm getting really involved with working out, working, hunting, you know what I mean? Don't know how to manage that, which the Lord brought us through that, through her going to counseling. I went to counseling. We went together, but there's been times like that where it's just been periods of, when we got married, divorce was never an option.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, we say the same thing.
And I talk to young people today and they're getting married and I'm like, guys, you have to ride out of the gate. Mm-hmm. It's not an option. Mm-hmm. When you have that mindset, now hear me, I'm not condemning anyone that's got it. That's not at all.
But if your perspective is, yes, I'm going to take this as far as it serves me or as far as I feel good about it.
Yes.
Then it's doomed from the beginning because it's like a business. I mean, once you go into a business, they're the same types of things.
Exactly.
If you're not in it for success, if you're not in it for the long game, then why bother starting?
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I said that again, I'm not, there's no judgment or anything with that at all. It's, we were going to figure it out, and,
absolutely.
And me and Stephanie's talked about it, and there have been times where I'm like, I guess this is just, how it's going to be. Mm-hmm. But man, that's not right. That's not how we're supposed to live, And, so a lot of it is communication. And I really, past 3 or 4 years, have learned a lot about myself and how I have was getting closer to the Lord. If my devotion time in the morning, if my quiet time with the Lord, if my worship time, if I'm not in sync with that, man, my whole house is off. The statistics everywhere of if a child gets saved, there's like an 8% chance the household, if the wife or mother gets saved first, it's like a 13%. If the man, it's like an 80-something%. We control the temperature of our house. We are the thermostat. If you don't believe that, man, your head's under a rock. You're just oblivious. I've lived that in my own life. I've come in and I use the analogy, a tornado lasts about 15 seconds. But it leaves a path of devastation behind it that takes forever to clean up.
Yeah, that's an image.
And there's been a lot of times I've had to go to my kids and say, listen, guys, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry for disciplining you, and I'm maybe not be sorry for what I said, but I'm sorry for how I said it and the delivery I said it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's a that's a standard apology for me right there,
man.
Because I have to learn to speak girl in my family, and I have I still don't know. I'm like, I wish, can I get like a Duolingo for this or something like that?
Bro.
Because I come in And basically, it's not necessarily about what I said. It's always about how I said it, right?
Yes.
And I go, well, I don't even know what to say. Because, man, when we communicate just a little bit more straight, a little bit more, you know, like we have the emotional edge is there, but it doesn't land in the same way.
Yeah.
But you are correct. It's about how you said it. And then you have to go back and you have to say, I understand what I said. I want the best for you, so I mean it. But the way I said it didn't take this into account and this into account and this into account. And therefore it didn't value you in the way that I do value you.
And I'm glad you said that, because I think it comes down to that a lot of how we love our spouse. Number one, the kids are not first. It's God, Stephanie. You know what I mean? God's first. She's next. You know, we have to honor our wives. You know, go ahead.
Oh no, you get me talking all day, because I get really excited about that, or passionate about that, because when you study cognitive development for children, they are developing in a large way based on the security that they feel from their parents. So if you don't have a stable relationship with your wife, then they're feeling that. Even if you're not talking about it, even if they're not seeing it, they're feeling it. And that's part of their actual developmental process. So the more stable we are as a couple, the more stability and the more growth potential the kids have at that particular stage. So they feel it. They feel it, whether we're talking about it or not. They feel it.
Absolutely. And again, going back and apologizing, man, that was tough for me, because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm like, man, why am I going to apologize to my kids? That's going to show weakness. That's going to discount my authority over them.
Right.
Well, you know, if you think of all those crazy things,
respect,
but man, that's a great way. But actually, it's been opposite. You know, it's been, you know, Dad, it's okay. We understand. I'm like, well, I appreciate that, but you know, I need to do better. You know, help me with that. And again, thankful, dude. I've got one girl that's 18 and two boys, and listen, I mean, I'm going to tell you, it's such a difference communicating, you know what I mean? And then even from child to child to child, you know, my two boys are opposite, you know? But yeah, man, it's a real good buddy of mine told me this. He has a point on his way home that he passes every day on the way home. I think it's a bridge. And he's like, well, actually I had two buddies told me that. And funny thing is, both of them are bridges. When I cross this bridge, work's done. That whatever happened during the day, the stress, the battles we fought, the everything we did, that's over. Now I'm going to go be dad. I'm going to go be husband. I'm going to go be father. I'm going to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's easy to say. It's real good to say. And it's like,
but that's a habit and a discipline, because you have to elevate that.
Yep.
I think the things that go on in my mind and the way that I carry that in the door, and it's like a bad or old used up piece of chewing gum, or, you know, a piece of gristle when you're eating a steak, and you just keep chewing on it, but you go into your house and you've got to put that down because you have to elevate and prioritize the role that you play as a dad and as a husband.
And it's hard enough. I can imagine having a normal job. What's normal anymore? A 9 to 5, you know, something like that, where you can kind of shut it off when you leave business, you know, whatever. But man, when you're self-employed and then when you're doing all the different things, you know, and maybe it's not harder, maybe it's all the same, but from my perspective, it's very difficult, because like my phone, you know, it rings all the time. Weekends, vacations. I can't tell you how many vacations, you know, I'm on the phone half of the vacation, you know, and things like that. Now, I don't recommend that. And looking back at a lot of that now, a lot of that should have been me being more disciplined and setting up more boundaries. So I think there's a great way to have a very successful business, but yet also have a very healthy home life and have boundaries where you don't have to work 7 days a week. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The secret to that, dude, I have no idea, other than putting the Lord first and letting him help you with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm still trying to figure that one out. But
you can't give us the secret in one little Instagram post of 90 seconds or something.
Man, I'm gonna tell you something. If I knew that secret, we might be having this conversation, but maybe at my house out in Wyoming or something.
That's what I was gonna say. You know what I mean? Be an entrepreneur.
That's right. That's right. We you know, we'd all be hanging out with plenty of money. You know what I mean?
That's good.
But I mean, if there is a secret, honestly, and I know it. Some guys will hear this, and I heard this a lot of my life. Oh man, that's simple. It's easy to say. Man, it's put God first. That relationship has to be in tune.
Yeah.
It has to. And I'm guilty of, and all of us are, especially if you're a driven person and you put all that noise in your life, all that noise. There has to be a quiet time. And for me, if I don't do it first thing in the morning when I wake up, you know how it is. Mm-hmm. The minute you check your phone, the minute you turn something on, the minute your mind is already geared that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Because one of the things that we have noticed the most, and I say I'm talking about Mark as we've worked with the untamed few here. But one of the things we noticed the most is that there's a new discipline you have to have. It's not just a matter of going to scripture. It's a matter of not picking up your phone.
Yeah.
Because what has happened is we're so programmed to respond to the ding, to whatever it is. Like we actually feel an anxiety when there's a certain amount of distance from our phone because it's become such a part of who we are.
Yeah.
So creating a discipline where you get out of bed and you go, nope, I have X amount of time where I'm not touching the phone. So it's not the first thing that you go to, but then you do go to the Word. It's like you have to do both. You can't just go to the Word.
Yeah. You
have to not go to the phone and go to the Word at the same time.
I'll tell you something I've done recently. Not so recently, probably a year or so ago, I like to keep notes on my phone in church because my handwriting's atrocious. And I had to get to where I can't do that because as I'm doing that, a ding, an alert, whatever, I'm going to check it.
Yeah.
So what I have actually done recently, my phone, probably most of us, your phone's on the stand right beside your bed, blah, blah, blah. I've actually, when I go in the room now at night, I plug my phone up in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I have a regular old school alarm clock now, and I don't even pick my phone up until after I've done my Bible study in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And one thing that really for me, and I was torn on that, I'll be honest with you, because I'm like, well, man, I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss that. Am I being a good business owner, being in tune, whatever? Well, I got really convicted and heard a sermon on the Sabbath. And, man, it's tough. I'll just be honest with you. Lord woke me up one morning with Ezekiel 20 in my heart, and I couldn't get over it. And what it is God is about to bring his wrath down on the Israelites, which you probably know this. You know a lot more about. And one of the things he's upset about is the idols that they've placed before him and not observing his Sabbath. And that really stood out to me. I'm like, man, you look at all these commandments that, you're not supposed to kill, all that stuff, but the Sabbath is in there too. And we blow past that. And, we do. I guess what the Lord spoke to me at that time is, listen, man, give me that time. This is how God talks to me. I don't know how he talks to you, but he's like, hey, give me that time. Don't trust me with that time. I'll bless the other time. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try it. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not been long I've been doing it. Game changer.
Yeah. You talk about the Sabbath, man, that is so good because we need to build that into our lives.
Yeah.
But if we don't build it into our lives, the biblical principle, as you're putting forth, is that it will be taken out of our life.
Yeah.
There's no way to get around it. And the very last verses of the book of 2 Chronicles actually shows that the exile that the Israelites went through was 70 years. And it does the math for you that those were all the added up years, the seventh year that the Israelites had skipped over all the years equaled 70. And so it was taken back. They neglected the Sabbath and it was taken back. And I think as an entrepreneur, as a person like you're saying, who couldn't always be on because you don't punch the clock on Monday morning and punch out on Friday, or like we see around here all the time, every second Friday you get off, right?
Where's one of those, man? I got to get one of those.
But as the entrepreneur, you can be on all the time, but eventually it's going to be taken back. It's going to be taken out of you in flesh. It's going to be taken out of you in relationships.
Emotionally.
It's going to be taken out of you emotionally. It will be taken back.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, like I said, God really convicted me of that, man. And it, that's one of those chapters in the Bible that when you get, it's not a lot of, and as I'm reading it, I'll never forget, I got out of bed, went and read it that morning, and man, there's not a lot of blessings. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, all right, Lord, where's the good stuff coming? And there's not a lot of good stuff in that one.
Yeah.
And I took that away and I'm like, okay, you're right. I've got to, as a business owner, it's hard to shut that off.
Yeah.
It's hard to, okay, I'm done for the day. Everything inside of me and all the people that I looked at growing up that were business owners, they never shut that off.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's wrong, and everybody has to figure out their own thing.
That's right.
But for me, and this all ties into what you were asking me about: kids, wife. You know, maybe not necessarily some of the earlier years, or maybe even 6-7 years ago, but now that is a principle that I have to do, and it is a discipline that. Do I get it right all the time? No, I don't, but I have got to come back to it, because if not, it leads me down a road of just isolation, of borderline depression, and again, it goes back to social media, man. There's been times in my business and in our lives, and I hit one about 5 or 6 years ago that, man, I got people coming to me, man, y'all are killing it. Everything's doing great. Y'all are, this, and from the outside looking in, it's awesome. And I knew what to say. I knew how to smile. I knew what face to put on. But dude, inside, I'm miserable. Mm-hmm. I'm just a dark shell of a man that appears to have it all together. And the more I talk to men, there's more and more guys, maybe not that exact thing, but very similar to that. And I'm like, man, I get it. I've been there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so, is there a moment, like a connection point or a relationship or a group or something that has helped to change that?
Yeah, honestly, it was, and I don't have my timing exact right. Maybe around 4 years or so ago, something like that. I was in just a dark spot. You know what I mean? Marriage was good, but it wasn't great. My relationships with the kids were good, but you know what I mean? It wasn't what God wants it to be. He wants us to live a life of fullness and joy and peace and happiness. He didn't say, hey, go do this and have a mediocre life. Nowhere in the Bible have I ever read that. I mean, am I missing something here?
I think you're quite a theologian right there.
Well, I'm a redneck theologian.
You nailed it.
But man, I listened to Rick and Bubba a lot. And Rick Burgess had, they were starting their How to Be a Man in Man Church. And I kept hearing about that. And I'm like, I'm going to order that devotional. And I ordered it, and it's really good. But man, I was doing it by myself, and I'd do it a couple days here, then not, and a couple days. And I just knew there was something else. Mm-hmm. And me and Stephanie were talking one day, and I told her, I said, baby, I love this devotion. I said, but I just can't stay committed to it. I can't. And I'm just being very transparent here, And she's like, well, what you need to do, smart, wise wife, get on social media and find a group of guys to do this with you. I'm like, so wait a minute. You want me to lead a men's group I've never done before. You want me to do Zoom, Google Meet, I've never done before. You want me to get on social media, which I really don't like, with men that I don't know. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. That's my first response. And you know how she is. She knows how to, and she stayed on me about it. And finally I said, I'm going to do it. So I put it out there. And a guy that's a friend now that I didn't really know, go to church with, he's the first one to sign up for it. His name's Mark. And Mark's a good friend now, and I've told this story before, and he laughed about it. And I went in there and looked at her. I said, look here, the first guy that signs up, I don't even know. So I'm got to go through a men's group and tell my difficulties and stuff with a guy I don't even know now. You know what I mean? You see how this is going. But man, honestly, little did I know that opened up a door for a lot of men in our church. And I didn't know what I was doing, still don't. I just told the guys, I said, listen, we're going to go through day by day by day. And I would go through a day or two ahead and just make some notes. Yeah. And man, it started cutting, it started cleaning, it started, you know what I mean? Yes. And we've been through it quite a few times now. And that right there for me, biblical masculinity. Let me say it one more time. Biblical masculinity. You can still be a man. You can still hunt, fish, shoot guns, all that cool stuff, and not be a good, godly man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What the world views as a man is not exactly what the Bible says a man should be. Mm-hmm. So we went through all that, and I'm going to be honest with you, that was a turning point for me. Now, has it been perfect? Has it been a smooth road? Absolutely not. Because you know as well as I do, you take a step out to do something like this, to try to change men that are going to change families and change churches and generations, there's going to be a lot of fight that comes up. Mm-hmm. And there's a small core group that started it with me, and I'll never forget, we were having lunch or something a few months into it, and we're talking, and all of us are looking at each other like, man, all hell has broken loose in our homes and in our businesses and whatever. So it's almost taught me too now how to fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we've done that. That was a turning point. And I'm in another small group now that this one was good, but this next one's kind of like on steroids. Now it's teaching us how to be a servant to our wives and things like that. And dude, a whole new, you know what I'm saying? You don't hear a lot about talking about that. You know what I mean?
No, I'll bet they're lined up for that one, right?
Yeah, lined up out the door
but
for that one.
But it is next level. That'll make a difference.
It really is. And it's that continued growth that, you know, the old phrase, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
There is no middle ground. Business, your walk with the Lord, family, relationships, you know that, man. It's if you're not growing and nurturing that thing, it's going to die.
Yeah.
So I think that was a big turning point when I started getting plugged in with men and being honest, because you know this, and isolation is a big tool the enemy will use for men.
Yeah.
We got it. You know, what's the favorite words? I got it. I don't need anybody. I've said that how many times?
Self-sufficiency. Yeah.
You get upset, you get whatever, you're riding the car by yourself, and I don't need them. I do it all on my own. Dude, that is one of the most dangerous places a man can be. Because you get there and then you feel like you're on an island, that nobody's around you. And really, a lot of the men walking around you are on that same island, just nobody talks about it. You know, so we opened up about a lot of things we struggle with and deal with. And man, there's power in that stuff. So that was a big, for me, turning point, you know, with that part.
That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome. Well, you brought up something. I got to make room for this since you brought it up, but hunting.
Oh yeah.
You're a man who loves water, loves the outdoors, loves being in a deer stand. Right. So what do you got to say about that?
Dude,
tell me something.
You know, growing up, I loved hunting. I love the outdoors. And it's funny because now it has become, and people might laugh about this. No, it's not. He's using that as an excuse to go hunting. Man, there's something about being out in nature, seeing a sunrise, seeing a sunset, seeing God's creation when it's just you and him. And it's not an audible voice. It's not a conversation like me and you are having. But man, there's been multiple times where I could have harvested deer, animals, whatever I'm doing. And man, it's just about being there. It's that disconnect. It's that, you know, because the world is so busy. You mentioned phones and watches and this, that, and other. We don't get away from that. There's never a disconnect. And when I'm out there in the woods, you hear the world around you a little bit, but there's just something about being there that it's become more of a relationship with the Lord kind of thing. And my boys are hunting now, so and a funny story, I've not hunted this year. It's weird. It's now let me rephrase this. I went on a goose hunt out to Colorado. I haven't deer hunted this year, and deer is one of my biggest, you know. And I just felt like last year it was weird and off time. I felt like it was time to take a year off, and it's been good. The Lord knew I was going to have a whole lot of business stuff going on that I probably wouldn't have time to do it, but I just love it. I've found a new love for out west, Colorado, you know, all that. I love being out there. I love being in nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm wanting to find more time to do that.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't want to look up one day and be 65 and man, this thing's about to wrap up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I love it. Love hunting.
That's good stuff. It's good stuff. Well, here's the thought. There's something that you have done recently, and the conversations that we have had about it make me really want to pry into this a little bit. But I like talking to guys about calling and alignment, and the Lord puts certain things on our hearts, and sometimes we don't understand it, and therefore, because we don't understand it, we don't do it. Or sometimes we get into stuff and we don't know why we're doing it. But you guys, real estate, that you've been doing that for a long time. You've been in construction, but then all of a sudden, this restaurant idea comes out of nowhere, and you start thinking about opening a restaurant. But you have told me that you felt like the Lord was speaking to you about doing, like starting this, opening this restaurant. So I would love to hear you talk a little bit about that and that process of discerning the Lord's voice and then embarking on this journey, because it's not been an easy one.
No, and I'll be honest with you, it's been one of the most difficult things me and Stephanie and even our house has walked through, just being honest with you. And it started, Stephanie's friend started this in Mobile, and every time we saw it, we wanted to bring it up to North Alabama, and no restaurant background, no anything. We started praying about it, and timing just wasn't right. Doors just weren't opening, and finally it got on our heart again, and we started praying, and God opened up some doors. And it's kind of one of those, you're like, well, Lord, I tell you what, if you want me to take the next step, I'm going to go have lunch with this person. This is kind of how it started. If they give me a yes, I know it's you. First yes. Okay. Well, Lord, if you want us to do this needs to happen. That happened. You know what I mean? So we're like, okay, we're doing this. You know what I mean? So it's and you know how we are. Me and Stephanie, when we get on something, we're driven. It's we're going to do it. You know what I mean? And so we started it, and a lot of ups and downs. One of the longest construction processes I've ever been through. First commercial property I've ever done. Learned a lot. School of hard knocks, and there was a time, and I'm going to be very transparent. A lot of people know this. About halfway through the process, we were at a point in the construction where it was just like all hell's breaking loose around us. You know what I mean? It's a couple of those. It's like, Lord, listen, I need to know this is you, because it feels like you're trying to close every door around us, but we know more than anything we've ever known before, we are exactly right now at this day where you wanted us to be. And I'll never forget it. I was driving by the restaurant one morning. We were still under construction, and it's just one of them days. Everything's going wrong. And I went to a buddy of mine, real good buddy of mine, and met him on a job site. And I said, listen, man, I need you to pray for me. I said, I am really struggling. And he knew my heart. He knows the story behind the whole thing. And he kind of looked at me, kind of sat there for a minute, and he said, did you think it'd be easy? And dude, listen, that's not what you want to hear, but that's the kind of people you need around you.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And I said, you're right. Still that day, that was a Wednesday night. I said, Lord, I still need more. I still don't. That Wednesday night, our pastor came up and prayed for us, had no idea what was going on, spoke everything I had asked the Lord for, confirmation. So we're guns a-blazing. It has been very difficult. You asked about discerning the Lord and hearing the Lord in business and stuff. This has taught me a lot, because a lot of times when you step out and do things, it's not going to be anything like you thought it was going to be.
Right. And
that's one thing that we're really learning through this. It's great. It's been awesome. We love the people. We've got to meet so many amazing people through the process, but it looks nothing like we thought it was going to. You know what I mean? We are so excited about what's going to happen, because we know that His hand has been over the entire process. You know what I mean? But that discernment, and I think that goes back to being in tune and being able to hear. I heard a pastor preach a sermon one time. He's like, can you hear the whispers?
Yeah.
Have you put so much in your life, and is there so much noise that when the Holy Spirit's trying to speak to you, can you even hear it? Can you figure it out in the middle of all the noise that's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that me and Stephanie, and I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of disagreements, a lot of this, a lot of that, but we reached a point in the middle of it. We were like, listen, we're not going to allow this to come between us. We're unified with this. And it's been great together, because some of the things that's happened, we just kind of look at each other and like, okay, how are we going to overcome this hurdle now?
Yeah.
How are we going to overcome this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered your question or not.
It is.
I hope so.
But the restaurant is open and going. You guys opened in the summertime, right?
We did. Yeah. We've been open almost about 7 months now. Baytown
Burger and Bay Beignet.
Yep.
Right. And you guys have both of those under the one roof.
Yep.
And yeah, it's actually really good. You guys should check it out. But and then you are Gothart Property Management.
Gothart Property Management.
And Gothart Homes.
Yes, sir.
Man,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great, man. We're so excited about what the Lord's doing, and again, just being able to bless people around us and stuff.
But
we're
you
very
do bless
excited.
people. You are a blessing. You're a blessing to me, my wife and I, our family, and just your presence, and even being able to watch you in business and live a life of integrity. Okay. So a life, and this is what we get to see firsthand, and I want people to hear about, is that you're a man who talks about these things and thinks about these things like you've talked about today.
Yeah.
You don't just put your mind to success alone in business, but you ask, how is my success going to affect the people that work for me? How is my success going to affect my customers? How is my success going to affect my family? And you recognize that there's a greater, better, bigger version of success. And it's going to be found in understanding what Jesus Christ wants for you in your life and your family's life and those people that you come in contact with. So you live it, Chris. So thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate it. And there's one thing, if I can say, before we get done, I heard a preacher talk about this one time, and the way we look at everything is nothing we have is ours. Everything's the Lord's. Every business, every dollar, every team member, everything. That is something that the Lord put around us, so hopefully we can steward it properly.
Yeah.
And when you look at things like that and things come and go, you're like, well, okay, Lord, that was yours anyway, so what are we doing next? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That really helps a lot. So I'm just blessed that He allowed me to be a steward of that stuff. So
well, we're blessed to have you.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. We love you guys. You and your family too are awesome, man. Y'all are a blessing, and just all the times getting to talk and dinner and lunch and stuff. So I appreciate you letting me do this. And this has been a blast, man. I've loved this.
All right. Had a good time too.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, thank you, Few.
If this episode sparked something in you, please subscribe and even share it with someone who's ready to take their life to the next level. We're always on the hunt for men who are looking to become untamed and release their untamed potential. Also, if you found value in this conversation, then please rate the podcast and leave a comment. It makes a huge impact in building our community. We'll see you next time when the adventure continues, or maybe when yours begins.